All right. Hello again, and welcome to another episode of the Fun Fans Podcast. I'm your host, James Dillard. With me, as always, my co-host, Bailey Jackson. How you doing, B?
I'm good. How you doing tonight, James?
Oh, man, I am flat wore out. To be honest with you, did too much shopping today, too much watching Clemson softball, too excitement, and no, that's what it's all about. But we are ready to rock and roll tonight. Special guest kind of last minute backed out on us, but today we're still going to talk about what it's like being a fan this time of year with college athletics. You'll see what I mean. We're going to highlight what has gone on this weekend with Clemson softball, baseball, a couple other spring sports. We're going to throw our 2 cents worth, and everybody knows what our 2 cents worth is worth, right?
Not 2 cents.
We're going to throw that in about the ACC 80s annual meeting that went down there in Miami, and we're going to give away a koozie. But first, we got to point out that the Fun Fans are a proud part of the Fanboys, Fangirls Sports Podcasting Network. If you're a true sports fan, the Fanboys, Fangirls is perfect for you. Find various nationwide podcasts and other sports media at thefanboys.com and all forms of social media. The Fun Fans Podcast is the official podcast for Clemson fans. And Bailey, where's our official place to eat?
We always love to go to Reuben's Food, Sports, Spirits, and Catering, the best wings around, with 2 locations in the upstate. 1083 Batesville Road in Greer and 11028 Anderson Road in Piedmont. Find them at ReubenC.com. Reuben's is simply a great place to eat for all sports fans, including Clemson Tiger fans.
All right. There it is right there. All right. Just real quick, we're going to point out our coming up this weekend. Not this weekend. Holy goodness, not this weekend. The first weekend in August. That Wayne Buckingham's fundraiser, August 4th, 5th, and 6th. Tim Bourret has said this will be a historic event because this will be the first time these guys are all in one place at the same time. We're talking Horace Grant, Dale Davis, LaVon Kirkland, Michael Dean Perry, Coach Danny Ford, Terry Tuttle. The list goes on and on. Find this website that's on my screen. Reach out to us. We will post the links when we post this show, but you do not want to miss that event. Bailey and myself will be there.
Get all the info.
Yeah, with all the info, please reach out to us, and we will get you whatever you need for a ticket or sponsorship. Now, what were we talking about? Bailey, you know what goes on this time of year, right? We're both educators.
Yeah, it's graduation time.
It's graduation time. Wow, it seems loud. Is that loud?
Nope.
So here at the Fun Fans Podcast, commencement, not just an end, but a new beginning. It's that time of year, and it's not different here at the Fun Fans Podcast. Back in August, we started with audio only, and it was just me for one episode, and then Bailey joined. And yes, just pause that real quick. All right, is that better?
Yep. Yeah, I thought that was a great idea until it started playing, and then I could barely hear you. But yes, we did start back in August. It was your idea, and then we were tailgating at a Clemson football game, and I said, "Hey, man, I'd like to be a special guest on the podcast," and here we sit today.
Yeah, here we go. So can you hear me good?
I can hear you fine, James.
Okay, something with the audio. So that's one thing I was worried about. We were worried about little technical difficulties because this is our first show on WSBN, the World Sports Broadcasting Network TV, channel 24. And I don't know if that shouldn't have anything to do with the audio. It sounded like it had something to do with the website I was playing, but we were going to play a clip. So we went from audio only. It was just me. I've went back and listened to that thing. It was bad. What we want to do is, as we're going to have new listeners with WSBN, we want to give them a little bit of background of the things me and Bailey sometimes talk about in addition to sports, and how we've graduated from audio And what we're doing today is we changed the video in January, but we're moving from the video streaming on our social media to the big time WSBN. All right, let's see if I can get this thing, play a little clip from this bad boy.
What episode is this?
Listening to the Fun Fans podcast, the first ever video version of the podcast. So now you can put the faces with the voices, right?
That's right. And just before we get started, I just want everybody to know the camera adds 10 pounds.
At least.
Yes.
At least.
It takes hair off your head.
That's why I wore a hat for a reason.
Yep.
Yeah. So hope we don't lose any listeners now that we've shown our ugly mugs. But anyway, we do appreciate you guys listening. Obviously going to say what's up to my coach. All right. So there it was. The first ever live video stream of the Fun Fans podcast. And that was back in January. So now we've upgraded. We have graduated to the big time, broadcasting on channel 24 of the World Sports Broadcasting Network. All right. WSBN can be found on WSBN TV and all forms of social media as well. Personally, I had to download the Boxcast app, but you can literally watch this on TV. So just find our friends at WSBN, and we'll be talking more about them as we go along. All right. So really about this time of year, as much as I love football season, the College World Series, the softball World Series, how these spring sports are going on. There's so many different sports going on, and there's so many different multi-teams like the regional that happened at Clemson this weekend. I really love this time of year. It probably is my second favorite. Bailey's second. Bailey's first favorite time of year might be basketball, possibly.
Well, I mean, there's nothing better than Clemson football. Even though I was a basketball coach for years, I do love Clemson basketball. However, I've paid attention to a lot more Clemson baseball games this season because, I mean, let's be honest, they're playing great, and it is exciting. And yesterday they had, I read something where both games were going on at the same time, the softball and the baseball. So they tried to work that out, but it was a TV thing that kept them from changing one of the game times.
Yeah, it's always cool. Like when we talk, our guest Wednesday, Nick had just graduated, and you hear the stories about some of the players that are participating in their graduation ceremonies and they're going to play their games and stuff. So that's really cool. Just want to say congratulations. We got our own little commencement here at Fun Fans Podcast, and congratulations to all the graduates. Personally, I'll be calling names Friday at my school's graduation ceremony. That is the most nervous time of my job. It's the most nervous thing I do at my job. Do you participate in your school's graduation ceremony, Bailey?
Actually, I am the director of security over at the Winthrop Coliseum, where I have to organize the 25 or 30 people that work the doors, communicate with all the police officers. And so I do all of that. As a trade-off for not being on stage.
Right. Yeah, I used to do that. I would rather do that than call the names, but knock on wood, I get most of them right for sure. And I tell all of them that I did my best. All right.
Well, that's something you can study ahead of time. You realize that, right?
I studied that. The only time I studied in my life is the night before calling the names at graduation. I literally call those bad boys out about 3 times. I've got little phonetic symbols above the script and all. Isn't it funny that phonics starts with a PH? It's not even pronounced.
Yeah.
Phonetic. Anyway, all right. So let's talk about Clemson baseball, Bailey.
All right. So the Clemson baseball team has just completed a sweep of the North Carolina Tar Heels. One of my good friends was over there this weekend, a big Tar Heel fan, and it didn't go so well for him. And there were a couple pretty tight games, but now they head to the ACC tournament. They actually have the second best record in the ACC, but because they're in the division with Wake Forest, who has the best, the winner of the Coastal Division, Virginia, is actually the number 2 seed. Clemson is the number 3 seed. And the ACC tournament's a little bit different than other tournaments in that it's a pool play situation where you have 3 teams. Clemson is paired with Virginia Tech and Boston College. Clemson plays Virginia Tech Wednesday at 7 and Boston College Friday at 11 a.m. And the winners of each pool advance to the semifinals. Well, you ask yourself, what if they all tie? So what if everybody beats everybody? Well, that's why it's so important to be the higher seed, because if everybody ties, the highest seed gets to advance.
Boom.
So you don't even have to win both games. If everybody's
Clemson,
1-1, Clemson advances anyway.
And you say highest seed, so highest seed in the pool. That's why I got the graphic up there, so you can explain it to people like me. So based on what you just said, Wake Forest, Virginia, Clemson, and Miami are
that's 1 through 4. Yes.
Yep. So they are the highest seed in the pool. So if everybody ties in the round robin pool play, they would automatically advance.
Yeah. So then you get to, Clemson has Boston College, which was they actually ended up 4, 5, 6, 7. I think or 7 or 8, and they're like a potential regional host in the NCAA tournament. So, and then Clemson just swept Virginia Tech, and they won 2 out of 3 at Boston College earlier. But so no team in the country is playing better or is hotter right now than Clemson, and it's a good time to be hot. They just keep finding a way to win. And 20-10 in the ACC, that's pretty good. And it is. It's funny, we had Nick Clayton on the other night, number 44, right-handed pitcher, and he goes out the very next night and gets the win against the Tar Heels. So it was great. And the championship game is at noon on Sunday. Yeah, it's because he was on the show.
That's right. It's the shoes. So the 4 teams, and then they start, and I'm playing ignorant. I'm really not this ignorant, but I'm playing ignorant for some of our listeners. 4 teams advance, and after that, it's like a normal double elimination 4-team deal there.
No. 4 teams advance, and then I would imagine they reseed them. So let's say if Wake Forest, Virginia, Clemson, and Miami won, 1 would play 4, 2 would play 3. I don't know if they already have it. It would have to already be like that anyway. A versus D, B versus C. Play 1 game, and then the winners play each other on Sunday for the championship.
So that's it. So if you make it out of your pool,
you're in the semifinals. Yes.
But it's single elimination basically after that.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. It's the same. Like if you did a regular, when the ACC went to so many teams, 15 teams or so, they had to come up with a way where teams weren't losing and then going through the losers bracket, because even though they have a ton of pitching, nobody has that much pitching. Right. Yeah, I mean, even Clemson, they've got plenty of pitching, but they play Wednesday night and Friday morning. So, and then they could turn around and play Saturday and Sunday. So that'd
be rough. Yeah. All right. Makes sense. So good luck. One more thing about the ACC baseball tournament. This is the Fun Fans podcast, and we do want to talk about what it's like being a fan. So this little graphic may be even more important. Tuesday game times, Wednesday Bark in the Park. Thursday is $1 hot dogs. Mm-hmm. Fireworks on Friday. Bojangles 4-pack Saturday, and then the Sunday championship. I'm sure there's
because everything has a promotion now.
I'm sure there's some promotion.
So I loved it when it was in Charlotte, because we would go over there and watch them play.
And this is Durham, right?
Yeah, it's in Durham. And it was at Knights Castle, which was actually in Fort Mill, which is where the Charlotte Knights played before they played downtown Charlotte. And that was even closer to my house. But, yeah, good luck. Well, Clemson Tiger baseball team.
Yeah, I think everybody's got a say in the location. And obviously, folks are biased. They want it. It was cool when it was in Atlanta. It was great when it was in Greenville. It's probably whoever's saying that is saying it because it was closer to their house. Greenville does seem to be a very attractive area to a lot of folks. So maybe Greenville can get it back sooner.
Well, it used to be in Greenville at the old Greenville Braves Stadium.
Yeah. Awesome. All right. Well, good luck to the Tiger baseball team. We'll be keeping up with that for sure. All right. Softball. Did you get to watch the games today?
I watched some of that. I kept checking the score because I was working on some of this, and they did take game 2. They lost 5-2 in game 1. Auburn, give them credit. They forced a deciding game, and Clemson wins, and they get to travel to Norman, Oklahoma, to face the number 1 seeded Oklahoma Sooners, who have won 46 games in a row and are the number 1 seed in the tournament.
Yeah, so just real quick, I mean, it was an exciting weekend of softball for Clemson. If you know, the stadium was packed. The weather today was unbelievably beautiful. Unfortunately, I mean, from a fan standpoint, you could say it was okay. Knowing now that they won the second game, it's okay that they lost the first game, right?
Right.
That would not have been good to lose both games for sure. But I mean, you couldn't ask for better softball. Those in both teams, Auburn, very, very good. And from what I saw the first game earlier in the weekend, well, all 3 games they ended up playing. It was like whoever scored first jumped out with some runs, and you know that's kind of the way it went. But it got tight. It got a little tight there at the end, and they actually the last 2 outs were both under review. So that was it. Well, not one of them was not an out. It would have been the last out, and then what was the last out went under review as well. So they tried to drag it out as long as they possibly could. So that part's not so great for fans, but it's all right. We definitely want to get that right. So good luck to the Lady Tigers as they go to, as you said, Norman and apparently Oklahoma, big time softball powerhouse, right? Same thing last year. Didn't we do this last year?
Yeah. They've won 46 games in a row.
46.
All right. Good luck, Lady Tiger softball team.
Doing something right.
That's
for sure. All right. Also, one last Lady Tiger team, the golf team. So I checked right before we started, and they're out in Arizona in a league of 30, a field rather of 30 teams, NCAA championship tournament finals. They're going to narrow it down to 15. And the projection is that Clemson will be one of the somewhere between 12 and 15.
I don't know how now.
Unless something
they've slipped down the leaderboard. They're tied for 24th right now.
Oh, well, that's not good. That's
plus 19 today.
Oh, not a good day. But I wanted to give a shout out. One thing I did see now is our rivals down the road, the Gamecocks, were in 3rd. Are they still in 3rd?
They're like 6th place now. I mean, you got to keep in mind that leaderboard is fluid like all day.
Right.
It's a golf tournament, and you know that the round 3 scores are not posted for about half the field. I'm assuming they're still out there playing since it's only 5 o'clock or whatever time it is in Arizona. So they're probably still playing and starting to come in. They started on different holes, so they should all get done at the same time in the afternoon wave, and we would know in a couple of hours, I would imagine. But they had Lady Tigers had not played well today, which they needed to, I think.
Well, good luck. It was a great season. If I'm not saying it's over, but to make it that far, I think they're doing really, really well, and hopefully maybe something will happen and they can advance to that one more round of golf. Apparently there's some powerhouse women golf stuff too. The more you keep up with, the better Clemson does and gets around. You start hearing like Oklahoma's world beaters for years in softball. Stanford and some other team usually win everything in women's golf. So
I mean, Stanford's always good. Arizona, anywhere in where you can play golf all the time, 365 days a year.
Hey, it's not much different around here. Right? Did you play golf today?
I did. Yes.
Congratulations.
You're welcome.
All right. And speaking of artificial turf.
All right. So some of you probably saw this if you look at TigerNet, but there's a artificial intelligence. I guess it's like a service maybe, or a business. Somebody's trying to make some money. It's called Chat GPT, and it is a natural language processing tool that is just like a human, that allows conversations, answers your questions, assists you with daily tasks, and can even write essays. All right. I'm glad that wasn't around when I was in college. And they looked at several factors or criteria for college football players, and Clemson ranks number 2 in where the artificial intelligence app would commit. and they use things like recent championships, playoff appearances, coaching staff, NFL pipeline, facilities and resources, and if they were in a competitive conference or not. So it basically looks just like every year's top 10.
AKA Skynet.
So I don't know why this is so artificially intelligent, because those are just the top 10 teams every year in the preseason poll.
It's in the algorithm.
And that's how recruiting goes.
Yeah.
You know, Clemson, those things are very important at Clemson. And, you know, people go to Clemson because of the culture. That artificial intelligence cannot rate culture. It didn't say it had rated culture, but you know, everybody we've had on this program or this podcast has said Clemson's just different. So I'm going with that.
Clemson is such a welcoming place. Chat GPT would be brought in with open binary arms.
Yes.
So, but who does not need Chat GPT?
J-Do,
MC, entertainer, entrepreneur, pep rallies, corporate events, game shows, fundraisers, galas, etc. Just put that man on the mic and let him liven up the party. Not only is J-Do a friend of mine, I've seen him work, and you and your organization will not be disappointed when you add J-Do to your function. You can find him at itsjdo.com and on all forms of social media at itsjdo. All right, so we've kept our eye. There's his graphic. Go J-Do. All right. So we've kept our eye on what's going on. The ADs down there talking some big time stuff, big money stuff. They're down there just wheeling and dealing or doing whatever it is they do. And here's the skinny, at least my interpretation of this stuff going on, Bailey. You can tell me if I'm wrong or if you disagree or tweak a little thing here or there.
I'll be glad
to. Obviously, the ADs in the conferences, it's all about money. I mean, let's just be honest. Those folks are beyond, they're outside of the education portion of colleges and universities. And it's almost to the point they're using athletics as it's just a thing to make money. And the most recent TV deals for SEC and the Big Ten are literally almost create twice the revenue that the ACC signed not too many years ago. And one of the problems from what I'm hearing is the contract that the ACC signed goes through 2034. So
right.
There are all kind of problems for another decade. And they're talking about how to close that gap. And it's literally, you're talking about $30, $40 million in revenue for the ACC teams. But then that's only about half of what the SEC and Big Ten teams are going to get. And eventually, you know, money is going to buy the facilities. Money's going to make everything look better. It's going to be easier, especially with NIL stuff going on. I don't know. Who knows what's going to happen? So they're down there trying to figure out what they're going to do. And what seemed to come out of this is one of two things. There's a Magnificent Seven. Did you hear about that?
No.
So the Magnificent Seven is like really the 7 ACC teams that are actually successful in football. Successful based on ACC standards. Let's not start the conference argument. But basically they're saying, okay, something's got to give. Either we've got to add more teams or we might dip on out of here. So the consensus of the thing as it has ended, and Florida State and Clemson are the two most vocal. If they don't add, they talk about West Virginia, a couple of other schools that I wrote in my notes somewhere but can't think of right off the top of my head. But basically, if they don't add some schools to the ACC, there might be at least two, somewhere between 2 and 7, that are going to dip out for greener pastures.
So John Swofford was the commissioner of the ACC for years. And I found an article from 2012 today where he was the savior of the ACC, because in 2000, right around that time, they signed this big deal with, you know, the ESPNs, the ABCs. That's when they started playing. You know, that for years Clemson has been on ABC at 3:30 on Saturday or at noon or whenever, or they were on ESPN at some point. But it got to be where every game is on an ESPN affiliate,
right.
unless you play at Notre Dame. Okay. So ABC, Disney, the parent company, they own all of that. All right. So the problem is the deal was signed for like you said, too many years, and it was not made to keep up with the landscape of college football. Now, why is FSU and Clemson, why are they the two most vocal? Because honestly, year in and year out, those are the only two schools that can compete with the SEC,
Right,
or with the Big Ten. Those are the only two schools that year in and year out could be legitimate in those
in either
conferences.
right.
And
That's
if you pull for another ACC school, I'm sorry, that's just how it is.
They have their years, but not like
Right.
you said, consistently. Right.
NC State, no. North Carolina, no. Wake Forest,
Mm-mm.
no. All pretty solid teams, all pretty solid programs, but they don't want to go play in the SEC.
Not it. No, that's right.
We shouldn't. What the ADs really want is to get the same money and stay in the same conference.
Correct. They really
or get half as much of the money. They don't even want all of it. They said we're okay with being third, but third's way too far back from first and second.
One of the proposals, I guess, was that they stop distributing the money evenly. So, and think about it, with the playoffs coming around, 12 team, multiple round playoffs coming up, Clemson, Florida State, or even if it is, NC State has a great year or whoever, and they advance deep into the playoffs, shouldn't they get more of a cut than the other schools that, had a 500 record, for example? I mean, kind of makes sense, I guess. I don't know how that's going to go over, and that really doesn't help all the teams. That's just going to keep some of the top teams.
Well,
at
then
the top
then there'll be even more of a divide between the haves and the have-nots
within the conference. That's right. Not only we're worried about the gap, that'll create a gap within the conference. That's correct.
So this is my personal opinion. I think if you want to raise the level of play in the ACC, you need to raise the level of commitment financially to the ACC through TV deals like this. More money. I don't care what anybody says. The more money you have, the better facilities you build, the more players you get, period. Look at what Clemson's built over there in the last 15 years.
Right.
That's why they get the players.
They're going to have to, that's why they're going to have to add more schools. Like, apparently the way the contract is laid out, the only way for there to be more money is to grab more schools. That'll be more games, more revenue, et cetera, which then it'll just be split up. If you bring in 2 more schools, let's say it brings in another $30 million, but then it's going to be split up among, 14 schools instead of 12. So,
well, I mean, let's just be honest. Who are you going to go get people are going to go, oh, wow.
There was no wows. Yeah. I mean,
West Virginia.
West Virginia.
We'd like to thank West Virginia. The West Virginia game, when they hung 70 on Clemson, is one of the turning points to where we are today.
Right. Oh,
that's when Brent Venables was hired. After that.
Well, I think could be years down the road. We talked about this before. This is the whole conference expansion thing. If it gets bad, they're going to have to do something. A decade from now, then that contract will be over with. Do you try to sign another contract and catch back up with?
I think you just try to get out of the one you're in.
There's got to be a way to renegotiate the same. We're going to renew, but that might be where the too many years came from.
Yeah, because ESPN wants Clemson and Florida State and North Carolina and all those teams. They own the ACC network. They want all these teams to play on their networks, but they don't have to pay them anymore because they're in this deal that was signed 10, 11 years ago. So that's going for another 10 or 11 years.
Yeah, another decade. So there's the
problem. There's a little known fact too. John Swofford used to be the athletic director at the University of North Carolina, and supposedly he was in on the Clemson probation thing, pointing the finger. And then he becomes commissioner of the ACC. So you figure that one out. Now that's speculation. But I have read that many, many, many times. But anyway, all right. Good talk.
Yeah. Yeah, so definitely gonna be a talking point probably for a couple of years. And it's funny that it's not just this conference. Even the SEC, the Big Ten, they've got schools or the Pac 12, Pac 16, whatever they are now. They're in a similar boat. So it's gonna make the upcoming football season interesting for sure. All right, it's time for our weekly giveaway, Bailey. We're giving something away. We're giving away a koozie.
And we'd like to thank Diamond Edge Products for that koozie. And you can get your Diamond Edge Products Fun Fans Podcast merchandise right there on our merchandise store.
Right there.
They have completely mastered a laser engraving process, and they can put almost any design on items such as license plates, yard signs, tumblers, water bottles, and much, much more. For a high quality, forever lasting custom engraved product, check out Diamond Edge Products at diamondedgeproducts.com. And if you have some questions or you just want to order something, email Jaylin, that's Jaylin, at diamondedgeproducts.com. And now for the drum roll, please.
This week's winner of a Fun Fans koozie is David Roberts.
David Roberts?
David Roberts. And
I know David Roberts. I will say this, shout out to David Roberts. He said we did a fabulous job with our interview with Nick Clayton.
Oh, very good.
He is a York guy, so he was paying close attention, and he is Clemson Dave down in York, South Carolina. Congratulations, David.
All right, well, very good. Well, I'll be reaching out to him for his address and so I can get him his koozie. All right, so if you want to win, all you have to do is share any of our shows on any social media, and your name will be entered for a drawing. Next week, obviously, we'll be giving away a tumbler instead of a koozie. Speaking of next week, we're going to have a Memorial Day special on Memorial Day. So instead of our normal Sunday night, we're going to pick a time on Monday. We'll put that out there to announce it. Bailey and I have to check our busy Memorial Day galas. We don't have a gala necessarily, but we have to Memorial Day weekend events, and we're going to announce what time. We'll do our Memorial Day special next week, but just be sure you share any of our shows. You'll be entered in the drawing. Reach out to us how you can participate and or support in Wayne Buckingham's Orange and White fundraiser the first weekend of August. Rub some elbows with those big-time Clemson names that we mentioned earlier. We appreciate you being with us today for our first show on WSBN. So hopefully that went well. Do we need some more applause for that one?
I don't know. I'm trying to. It says it's not streaming yet, so I don't know what's going on. Oh, wait a minute. It says live now.
Yeah, I've been getting texts from the family. Supposedly that went well. Is from a technical standpoint, how the show was is anybody's judgment. But as long as it got up there, all it's going to do is get better. If you go back and listen to our first audio when it was just me, and even the first one when it was the two of us, not very good. We did pretty good on the video, but how we've had to learn this stuff, we're just going to get better and better. This show gets better and better. So thanks again for checking us out each and every week. Click, subscribe, follow, especially on YouTube. Find WSBN TV and all of their plenty of other sports things, all kind of events and shows and everything else that they have for sports fans out there. And we're going to continue to bring you some stories of being a fun fan. We're going to have some great guests coming. And on behalf of the Fun Fans Podcast, Jay Thrilla Entertainment, the Fanboys Fangirls Podcast Network, and Bailey Jackson,
we are out of here. Thanks for listening and watching.
Thanks for listening, watching, and go Tigers.